What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and today I want to share with you guys an absolutely insane story. This story involves a girl that my wife grew up with. She was the one that shared this story with me, and when I heard about this was absolutely sickening to me. One reason being because when I was younger, I could have very easily found myself in a similar situation. I'm going to be telling you guys about that in this video. But all of what I'm getting ready to share with you would take place in a small town down in Louisiana on last Friday, December 28th. 3 days after Christmas, involving three different people: a guy by the name of Lance, I think he's like 24 years old, a young 17-year-old kid by the name of Levi, I don't have a picture of this kid, and also this girl that my wife grew up with, a girl by the name of Melissa. And last Friday, these three people would attempt to go rob a convenience store, and during that robbery, the store clerk or owner would end up getting shot at point blank range with a sawed-off shotgun. My wife tells me that this girl, Melissa, has had a drug addiction problem, battling an addiction to meth for God knows how long. And I'm quite sure that the other individuals in this situation were probably active drug users as well. So another thing that I hope that this story will showcase and chronicle is just what an addiction, or what your efforts to attempt to feed an addiction, can cause an individual to do. One of which being not thinking clearly at all and not thinking about the consequences or the trouble that you could find yourself in from doing something as crazy as robbing a convenience store where a clerk would get shot just in an effort to go get high. Now, something else to throw into this real quick: if you guys want to see more of this situation, there is surveillance video footage of this robbery taking place that's actually available on the After Prison Show website, apsofficial.com. I'm not even going to dare attempt put that in this YouTube video. It's relatively graphic, but if you guys want to see more, visit our website and you can see the surveillance video footage there, as well as a little piece that I wrote up on this story that I'm sharing with you guys. You know, I don't know what kind of trouble these three individuals have faced in the past or what kind of criminal record that they have, but right now all three of these people are facing armed robbery and attempted murder. Then go ahead and throw into the mix that all of this took place down in Louisiana. And again, Louisiana has the highest rate of incarceration of any state here in the United States, which also probably means that their court system is pretty extensive and tough. So to say that these three people's lives are potentially done, oh, they're gonna get their boots smoked. They're gonna get their wigs peeled back, and I can guarantee you, they're also gonna be doing a lot of finger pointing when it comes to going to court, because ain't nobody gonna be trying to do all of that damn time. And think about this, another sickening thought to think about in relation to this story. You know, with the fact that these three people were probably very active drug users, hell, they were probably high when they went and did this. Can you imagine what they're thinking as they're waking up in jail days later, finally starting to sober up and realize just the situation that they're in, realizing that they're probably never coming home? Now, the surveillance video from this shows one of the guys with some sort of a bandana tied around his face. He's got the gun. You can see him arguing and tussling with the clerk or store owner with that gun when that store clerk or owner ends up getting shot. You can also see in that footage the two guys who were involved in this situation, both of them being outside the car, inside of the store, robbing this place. But what you can also see is the girl who my wife grew up with sitting right there in the front passenger seat of the vehicle while the store clerk is laying right on the ground right by the front wheel as all of this is taking place. And you know, it kind of looks like in this footage, though it is a little bit blurry, that this girl couldn't care less what's taking place, couldn't care less that there's a man laying right there on the ground, potentially dying right in front of her, as these two other people that she's with are inside of the store robbing it for probably what, like less than $100? You know, I can imagine what the interrogation is going to be like, how her defense is probably going to be like she didn't know that this was going to take place, how she was just along for the ride. She had no idea somebody was going to get shot. She had no idea that these guys were going in there to rob the store. You didn't know. How you didn't know when these dudes had masks and this sawed-off shotgun? I'm quite sure that was going to be hard to conceal. But I can imagine her defense is going to rest heavily in the fact that she had no idea what was about to take place. And she's going to be willing to point out those two other guys testifying against them in court. And even with her doing this, she's still going to end up with at least 10 years. At least 10 years, if not more. We're talking about Louisiana, for God's sakes. Now, there's also one other really crazy thing that I want to share with you guys about this story, and it's seen again in that video surveillance footage. And that is that as all of this is taking place, as these two guys are in there doing whatever it is that they're doing during this robbery, There's also another car in the background you can see where somebody is actually filling up gas as all of this is taking place. Without a doubt, they hear this shotgun blast go off because it takes place about 20 feet away from them. And I can't even imagine what they're thinking. There's also somebody in the back seat of that car as well. You can kind of see that person in that video footage. And there's also somebody who's in the store who gets laid down right in the midst of this robbery. You know, I think to myself, what is that person who's pumping gas supposed to do? It's probably a good assumption to think that you're not going to go be the hero. You just heard this shotgun blast go off 20 feet away from you. Realizing that somebody got shot, you're probably trying to stay out of this as much as you possibly can. And here you are, just stuck right in the midst, in the middle of this taking place. And you know, I ask all of you, what if it was you who was pumping gas during this situation? What would you do? You know, because I try to think to myself what I would do. Would I attempt to go be the hero? I'm not really built like that. This person has already shot somebody. Honestly, I would probably be ducking down behind that pump and car, scared for dear life, praying and hoping that I'm not going to get shot next. And again, like I said at the beginning of this video, all of this is just absolutely sickening to learn about and to see this video footage, to hear that, you know, the woman suspect was somebody that my wife grew up with, somebody that she used to play softball with. And the reason all of this is so sickening to me is because I want to tell you a story of something that almost happened to me when I was 18 years old. Something that I almost did. And this is just crazy to even think about. But back when I was 18 years old, I was knee deep, I mean right in the midst of beginning to get in just so much trouble, which would ultimately lead to me getting in so much trouble. I didn't do this, but I almost did. And I just think to myself, what if I had? What if I had? And the situation that I almost found myself in turned out a lot like the situation that these three folks are in right now. When I was 18 years old, I had moved out on my own. I was living in a trailer. My father helped me get this trailer. This was something that my father tried to help me do in an effort to get me up out of the streets. Because during this time, I was running with all the wrong people. And my God, the stories that I could share with you guys, the before prison stories, there's so much more to what I'm getting ready to share with you guys right now, but I'm only going to share the part that really ties into this story that takes place down in Louisiana. When I was 18 years old, I had my very first ever place. It was a trailer. I was also working a job working at a landfill. I was making like $7.50 an hour. My job description was pretty much digging through trash for $7.50 an hour. And you know, during the very beginning, when I first got this place, a place that I would only have for about 3 months, but during the very beginning, probably the first 2-3 weeks of me having this place, I was actually doing okay. Making $7.50 an hour, working a job, and I had my very own place. I thought I was doing pretty good. But then all of my friends would come around, or at least the friends that I had during this time who were absolutely no good. I was no good to them, and they damn sure were no good to me. We were like oil and vodka. Wait, oil and vinegar. Vodka and milk. A combination that just didn't mix very well and was just a recipe for disaster. But about 2 or 3 weeks after I got this place, while I was doing so good, all of my friends came back into town because they had been out of town. And these were just bad people, people I probably should not have been associating with at all. And from the time that they came back in town, they all began to live with me. I probably had like 7 or 8 people living inside of this little 2-bedroom trailer. I would immediately jump right back into the drug game, selling weed. From there, and at 18 years old, I would first get introduced to cocaine, which would absolutely take me by the balls. And from my first introduction to this drug, I would go on like a week's end bender, selling everything that I had in my place just in an effort to get high. I mean, I was gone. From that first introduction, 100 miles an hour from there. And with the fact that I was dealing with this addiction and also dealing with people who were just absolutely no good, things would just escalate and get completely out of hand really quick. So much to the point that the police were constantly coming to the house, running the license plates of cars that were sitting out front, trying to see who had a license and who didn't, waiting at the end of the road for those cars to leave, pull those cars over, search those people. The cops thought 2 things during this time, and I don't even know how all of this would end up happening. Obviously, somebody was telling, and all of that would come into play a little bit later. But the cops thought 2 different things. One, that we were a gang, that everybody in this house was part of some gang. I don't know what gang they thought we were. And two, that we were definitely selling drugs out of this trailer. And you know, with the drugs that we were selling and the drugs that I was using, there would also come guns. My friends would have guns, people would bring guns over. I remember this one kid came over with this sawed-off shotgun. Quite eerily ironic to the story that I just shared with you from down in Louisiana. But this kid came over with this sawed-off shotgun one day. I'll never forget this gun. It had a wobbly, broken stock on it. And he was so proud of this thing. He was showing it to me. We were standing outside of the trailer. It was nighttime. And I had another so-called friend inside of the trailer, a real bad guy. I mean, this dude was probably one of the baddest dudes that I was ever dealing with. This guy was bad news. And I don't know why I said what I would end up saying, but I said, hey man, why don't you go inside the trailer and show that to such and such? I don't even want to bring up this dude's name. I'm laughing and joking about this, but I know that sending him in there with this is not going to end well at all. He would end up going in the trailer, I would hear a tussle, and then he would come out beaten up, and he would leave. He walked in there with this weapon. This guy absolutely mauled him inside of this trailer and took that from him for himself. Fast forward a little bit of time, I don't remember how much time, but all of a sudden this really bad dude would come up to the trailer one night and he would suggest this plan. He would suggest a plan that we would go rob this gas station. He was going to put us up to it, me and another guy who was living there with me, another one of my so-called friends. And again, I'm dealing with my own drug addiction. I'm thinking to myself, you know, if we do this, we'll get a couple of $100, maybe we'll get more. I'm not thinking clearly at all. And I'm actually entertaining the idea of going and doing this. I think that bad news dude was also telling us that if we did this, you know, he would give us like X amount of drugs. And I will never forget, for as long as I live, this was the closest I came to almost absolute, well, one of a few different times I came the closest I've ever come to doing something that I would never be able to undo, because God knows how this could have turned out. But when I tell you that we were about to go do this, we were so much about to go do this that I was walking out the front door with that wobbly stock sawed-off shotgun right beside me. I don't even think we had masks. We had like t-shirts that we were going to tie around our faces. This was surely not going to go well at all. Now, mind you, we also had a guy who would come over to this trailer quite a bit, who worked at this particular store. And he was the one who was trying to put us up to do this, saying he would be working and we could get into the safe. I never really trusted this dude. He always gave me a bad vibe, just like the other bad news dude probably really should have been giving me as well. But on this night when this plan was concocted and some way, somehow, probably drug-fueled, I had the balls to actually think I was ready to attempt to do something like this. We were walking out the front door of that trailer, and again, it was nighttime. And as I'm walking out that front door, holding on to that wobbly stock piece of junk, right there beside my leg as I'm walking out that door, I stepped 1 foot out of the door, and as soon as I did that, I saw a cop car just creeping right on by. I got 1 foot out the door, I got my hand on this wobbly stock sawed-off shotgun, and as soon as I put that foot out the door and saw that cop car creeping by, I tucked that thing right behind my other leg, went right back into the house, turned around, and I said, I'm not doing this. There is no way I'm doing this. But I think, what if I walked out that front door and I hadn't seen that cop car? If there was ever a sign in my life to not do something, that definitely was a sign. And we would never end up going through with that plan. Thank God. That night, I came the closest that I ever came to doing something that I would never be able to undo. And again, God knows how that could have turned out. And from that time, you know, I still continue to do all the wrong things, the drugs, and just doing petty little stupid stuff that would ultimately end up getting me locked up. And every time that we would get to the trailer, if we had been out, I could remember like so many times where the cops would literally try to pull up on us, and we would jump out of the car and run into the woods. I would have like a little igloo cooler full of weed. I was absolutely retarded. I was so stupid. And you know, they never were able to like catch us red-handed. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why. But I guess if I try to piece it together now, maybe they were just trying to build the case against us. And it is without question that they definitely had us under surveillance. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And they were just hoping that they could catch us red-handed. But as they were probably doing their investigation, they probably needed to get more concrete evidence to get that search warrant to be able to come kick that front door in. And again, like I said, I would only have this trailer for 3 months. And the reason why is because this one night, another night, that same guy who worked at the gas station, that same guy who wanted us to go do this same guy that I did not trust at all, came to the trailer one night and he told me, he said, Joe, you got to get out of here. The police are sitting right down the road right now and they're getting ready to come raid this place. You know, that guy actually did me a solid by telling me that, and I packed up immediately and I was gone. I went completely on the run. I was already on the run because of my first felony, a grand larceny that I bucked on court for. I wasn't complying with any of the probation. I don't know why they didn't come get me sooner. But you know, after I left and I went even further on the run, I would hear through the grapevine, I can't remember who it was from. It was probably from one of these friends that, you know, I considered a friend, but probably had no business considering a friend. But I remember hearing that this same dude that I didn't trust and the same dude that gave me the heads up, he had stolen like a generator from that gas station. They put a grand larceny charge on him. And in an effort to save himself, he gave up the trailer and everything that was going on at the trailer. But he did come and warn me at least, so that was a plus. There was one final thing that would happen in relation to that trailer. And that was, I had been gone for a few months. I was driving my vehicle with no license. I had a big jacked up Toyota pickup truck back then. And it was a piece of junk. But I'll never forget, for whatever reason, I ended up right back in that same area where that trailer park was at. And I was driving down this long road that would eventually lead to the trailer park. I had 2 ounces of weed in the vehicle with me, no license, and I'm on the run. And I will never forget, as I'm going down this long road, I know it's probably close to dinner time because what would end up being said to me. But as I'm going down this road, I can see a car coming toward me, and it ends up being a cop. And no sooner than I pass that vehicle, they slam on the brakes, turn around, get right behind me, and throw the blue lights on. Now again, mind you, I'm on the run, I've got no license, and I got no idea what's taken place at this trailer since I've been gone. The cops got the blue lights on behind me, and I'm relatively cool as a fan. I guess back when old Joe was around, you know, I must have been used to this, or I must have thought that this was just the way my life was gonna be. So even with all of these bad things against me right now, and this weed in the trunk, I'm not really panicking. As a matter of fact, as I'm pulling over, I'm taking those 2 ounces and I put them inside of a McDonald's bag. Put the empty fries over top of them, put the empty burger wrapper over top of them, and I just throw it in the floorboard like it's some trash. There was a bunch of trash in the floorboard. I pull over. The cops ask me for my license and registration. I tell them I don't have a license, and they cut me off right in the midst of that. They say, we already know. And they said, let me tell you something. If we find anything in this vehicle, and I want to say that they said, if we find a weapon inside of this vehicle, you can go ahead and break your dinner plate because you're going to be gone for a while. They got me out of the truck. They searched the vehicle. And do you know they never found the weed? They never found those 2 ounces. They never went inside of that McDonald's bag. You know, I'm thinking to myself as they're searching this vehicle, go ahead and just put the handcuffs on me right now. I can't run. You already know who I am. If I run, you take the only thing that I have, this vehicle, this piece of junk beater Toyota pickup truck that I've been living in. I got nowhere to go, so I'm almost accepting my fate at this point. But when they get done searching the vehicle, they tell me something along the lines of, you're lucky. And they let me get back in the vehicle. And then they run my name and it just takes forever. And you know, they've got the searchlight on the vehicle because the sun's starting to go down. They're definitely messing with me. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it came back that I didn't have warrants. I don't know why. I don't know how this took place, but they would end up letting me go. And you know, it's so crazy because not only did they not find the weed in the truck, not only did they not realize that I had warrants, they didn't even care about the fact that I didn't have a license. In fact, what they told me was, they said, take this vehicle and you park it back at that trailer and you don't drive it no more. You go home. I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe this at all. These guys were letting me go like this was not good police work. I shouldn't really be saying that, but that's probably what the truth of the matter was. And you know, the final straw to cap off this entire situation is that this old beater truck was such a beater that the damn ignition, the starter in the truck wasn't no good. And in fact, a lot of times we had to push start this big ass truck. And do you know, as these cops were letting me go, I told them, hey man, my starter's no good. Can you guys help me push start this vehicle? And that was the last thing that I remember before I would end up going and parking this truck, waiting a little while and then leaving and getting gone for real, was these 2 cops behind this busted truck helping me push it so that we could get it started and helping me get away. I don't share this story with you because it's like one that I'm proud of. I don't share this story with you because it's like cool or, the cops were dumb. I don't even want to think that at all. I want to think that, boy, I must have had a horseshoe stuffed between my junies or something. I mean, I don't know. When your life is so chaotic, you're going to end up with quite a few stories probably similar to that. Times where you got away where you really shouldn't have. Times where you did things you definitely shouldn't have done, or times where you came really close to doing something that you shouldn't have done either. And I share all of this with you for a lot of different reasons. One, if you deal with the addiction, you got to get that out of your life before you end up like I could have ended up, or like these 3 people down in Louisiana have found themselves in. And if you're living a chaotic, crime-filled lifestyle, a lifestyle that's bound to only lead to either death or prison, you really need to consider making some major changes and doing whatever you got to do necessary to ensure that you don't end up like I could have ended up, or like these folks that I've told you about have ended up themselves. Hey, look, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this story, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment, letting me know what you think about all of this. And as always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, and make the most of every day. Peace!